Hello, and welcome to Module 1 of our course on depth and divergent thinking to engage gifted learners. In this course, we're going to be hitting on a lot of different things. We're going to be talking about depth and complexity. We're going to have time to explore that. We're going to be talking about divergent thinking, what it is and how you can encourage it in your classroom. And then also we're going to be talking about engagement, but more than engagement, we're going to be talking about the importance of the shift to empowerment. Now, within all of that, we're going to have an entire module dedicated to environment as well, because if there's any questions that I get most, it's about how do you facilitate and foster an environment where these things are allowed to happen. So I'm very excited for that. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an intro to our course. As I said before, we're going to be talking about depth and divergence to engage gifted learners. I'm going to tell you some about my core beliefs, and then a little bit of the why of this class. Why are we offering this class? Why is this important? Why isn't it just creativity? And so giving you a little bit of a path through the rest of this video. So first you have your intro video here. The next thing you're going to do is your slideshow on the myths about rigor. You're just going to go through, read it, reflect. There might be some things you agree with. There might be some things that you're like, I guess I never thought about it like that before. And quite frankly, we've all at some point or another believed some of these myths about rigor, myself included. You're going to explore the icons on depth and complexity. You're going to look at divergent thinking as explained by John Spencer. And then you're going to look at the 5 stages of engagement, which is something, it's this guy named, his name starts with an S and I forget what it is, but we're going to be looking at his different stages of engagement and what that looks like. And I'm going to ask you to provide me with what is an activity you do in your classroom that receives blank level of engagement? Because here's the thing. There's 5 stages of engagement, and one is like the real rough one. We've all had the real rough one, the real rough lesson. This is not meant to call you out. This is not meant to be like, my kids are never in this space. We've all had those days, but it's meant to be a point of recognition and pointing to it and naming it and saying, ooh, usually when I do these lessons, that's what that is. So without further ado, my core beliefs. One of my core beliefs is that learning shouldn't have to hurt in order to be meaningful. As a teacher who teaches AP US history and world area studies, and I've taught all different levels, K through 12, or not K through 12, but I was EC through 4 certified. I taught middle school for 6 years. I've taught high school for 4 years. I used to think that if it didn't hurt, if it wasn't hurting kids, then maybe it just wasn't powerful enough. And I say hurting kids, not physically hurting them, but I used to have a lot of misguided beliefs on what rigor was. But the older I get and the more I see in my classroom, the more I believe that learning doesn't have to hurt in order to be meaningful. We can have fun and learn. In fact, we should be striving to bring joy to our students when they learn, because that joy stays with them in their brains. When they want to access those thoughts, they're happy, they're not stressed, they're not feeling overwhelmed. That translates well when they go to testing. It's an important thing. Equitable learning includes learning styles. I very much believe that we need to be attacking kids learning with all 3 skills all the time. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic. The kids in your class that are succeeding shouldn't just be the auditory learners. It shouldn't just be the kids who can look at it and know it. Kinesthetic learners also deserve to learn in your classroom. And just because a kid tells you that they learn best through lecture, they learn easiest through lecture because the work is on you and not on them. But I would encourage you to not just ask your students, but ask them why, to kind of engage with them about those things. And a lot of times, in fact, I'll have my students write down their feedback, because I know that if I ask them out loud, a lot of them are just going to be polite to me. But if I give them an opportunity to write, they're going to, usually in a very couth way, tell me, oh, yeah, maybe this lesson wasn't the best for me. I would do better if we did blank. That works. And this is a big one for me, this last one. Valuing learning means valuing the process over the product. How many times have we sat in meetings where people just threw stuff at you? They threw like, here's all the things we're going to be doing. Here's all the things we're going to be talking about. And they threw 60 points up on the PowerPoint and just sped through it for 45 minutes. And at the end of the meeting, they say, if there's no more questions, we'll let you go. God forbid you have questions, and then you're the person that's holding the rest of the meeting hostage with your question. Yikes. So as a person who has a lot of questions, those meetings leave me feeling frustrated. They left me feeling like, did they even care that we really knew it, or were they just checking boxes off? And then I realized that as a teacher, I did that to students sometimes. We have to get through this unit. We have to get through this unit. I just need to run through it. But here's the thing. When I left that meeting, I was so frustrated and annoyed. I probably processed about 10% of what was on the screen. Whereas if they had even cut it by 30% and shown 30% less, I would have retained exponentially more. And the same goes for our students. Sometimes we want to just throw things at them to throw things at them, but if we value the process, we value how they're learning it more than the product, they're going to learn it better. The product is just throwing it at them and saying, well, I did my job. Value the process over the product, value the process over the product. We have to care more about how kids are learning than how am I going to grade it. We have to get kids to care more about how they're learning more than if it's just a grade. And that's something I've had to personally train out of my students. When they ask, we have conversations about, what does Ms. Puckett care about? Ms. Puckett cares about your learning. It's not about your grades right now. It's about your learning. So when we started doing activities in class that weren't for a grade, I'd say, but it's not about the grade. It's about your learning. You're going to do better on your test if you do this activity. That's where I value your learning. And that's how we do that. Now, why this course? When I did my training on creativity last summer, if you took that course, welcome back. If you did not take that course, hey, nice to meet you. When I taught that course last year, I had a lot of questions from people about, well, how do I, this all sounds good, but how do I create an environment by which this is, how do I create an environment that welcomes these ideas? How do I create an environment that makes my kids feel safe to take risks? How do I create an environment? And I had a ton of questions about environment. And so actually I dedicated the entire second module of this lesson here because we're talking about depth. When we ask kids to go deeper, we're asking them to take risks, and they need to feel safe taking risks. We're talking about divergent thinking. Divergent thinking means thinking off the beaten path. And if we're not allowing students to follow those pathways in our classrooms, if we're not allowing that, if we're not providing a safe space for that, they're not going to be able to do it. Or if they do it, they might not be able to do it as well if we don't encourage it. And we need to be encouraging that thinking as much as we can. And then to engage, and then again, the depth and divergent thinking to engage gifted learners. One of the things I hear a lot is, well, this kid must not really be gifted because they're making C's in my class. That kid probably has a lot of other things happening, but they are a gifted child. And sometimes we write kids off. Sometimes we just need to teach our GT kids largely function in a world where everything is driven by purpose. And if they haven't found a deep-seated purpose for something yet, maybe they don't pursue it as well. What I have found with GT learners, though, what I found with gifted learners, is that the engagement piece and empowering them to do more and increasing their agency and their say in the classroom helps tenfold. It helps everywhere. And I would say that is probably one of the most significant things is engaging these kids and engaging kids who typically feel like school is just kind of easy and they can just kind of skate through. We're not doing GT kids any favors by letting them skate through and not providing areas for them to go deeper, by not providing areas for them to advocate for themselves, by kind of using that as an afterthought and telling them just, go create your own thing. So I hope that kind of helps give you a little bit of an intro into our course, and kind of what that looks like. Like I said, in the first module, you're just working through the first hyperdoc. So good luck to you.